Yo, what's up, guys? It's your boy Bernie here along with Pete.
What's up, guys?
And just like the Cavs, we've also decided to reamp and improve, and that's why we're in this room.
New setup, new studio.
New studio, guys. Hope you enjoyed it. Thanks for all the feedbacks and comments. We listened to you guys. We appreciate it. And thanks to you guys, we're almost at 150 subscribers at the moment. Of course, we're on the climb. We're still climbing. And let's just get right into the news.
James. LeBron James all the way in.
Here comes Simmons the other way. 3-on-2. Simmons eludes the defender and lays it in with that. Certainly the length altered that shot. Not an equivalent steps.
Do we want to just start off the week where last week ended, kind of? Trade deadline stuff?
Trade deadline stuff. Let's talk about it. What you got?
Let's do it. We didn't get a chance to discuss any of these trades in person on the Charge last week because we filmed it on Monday. Let's jump right into it. I know you got a hot take on one of these trades. What do you think is like the steal of the trades that took place?
I think the steal to me of this whole trade deadline was the fact that the Utah Jazz absolutely got fleeced in their trade for Rodney Hood and who else did they trade away? Anybody?
I can't remember if they traded anybody else away. Did they?
I mean, just Joe Johnson, but he went to Sacramento and all this other stuff. But basically, the Cavs got Rodney Hood, who I believe was a really good player for them. They obviously did very well in that aspect. And I think the reason why they did that, the Jazz, and I'm just going to get into their mindset real quick, is the fact that they decided that we can only pay one of these guys, either Donovan Mitchell or Rodney Hood. And if we had to choose between the two, I'm sure they were going to go with Donovan Mitchell because they like him so much.
Donovan Mitchell, yeah. I mean, he's just better in general, and he's younger, and he hasn't had any injuries. So that's a no-brainer. But, yeah, I agree, but I think that kind of depends on how you value Jay Crowder.
Yeah.
And, I mean, I don't think his value dropped nearly as much as Isaiah Thomas's did in his time with the Cavs, even though he was pretty awful too. Mm-hmm. But I think that there's a lot of excuses that you could make for him as to why he didn't perform with the Cavaliers. He had a really not a good offensive system under Tyronn Lue. He played the exact same position as LeBron James, which meant that he had to play the Cleveland Cavaliers spot-up shooter method of offense, exactly, where everybody who doesn't do that in general is forced to do that when they play for that team. So, I mean, in my mind, you could write off Jay Crowder as being that's a good deal to get him because even his contract's not the worst.
Yeah.
So, I agree in some aspects, but Rodney Hood has to stay healthy for that to stay true.
Yeah, and he's had a history of a little bit of injuries, so that's going to also play into a factor. But I think going to what you talked about with Jay Crowder, he said in just reporting, Jay Crowder just said he was happy to play in the system again. He talked to reporters about, after the win against the Blazers and all that other stuff. He's like, I got back to having fun with playing basketball with a great group of guys. I love playing basketball within a system. It'll be fun. So I think that's like a little subtle shot at Tyronn Lue and the Cavs.
That's a shot.
I mean, there's been multiple shots. We've also had Isaiah Thomas, who said he also feels like he's got his superpowers back.
Yeah.
So obviously what this tells me is that these guys were not happy that they got traded. They felt like they got outed as bad people.
Yeah.
Especially by the national media, because once the Cavs were losing, once Kevin Love got hurt, the scapegoat was gone. Mm-hmm. They decided to start blaming these guys, and once they started playing well again, and everyone was like, oh, they're actually playing all right.
Yeah, and I think even when Isaiah Thomas and Jay Crowder were there, they were taking subtle shots at the coaching difference between Brad Stevens and Tyronn Lue.
Yeah.
And now they're really jumping in on that bandwagon. Jay Crowder, obviously, with that comment. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's true, though. It's hard for players like a Jay Crowder or Isaiah Thomas who were so reliant on being in a good system that now when they get moved to Cleveland with no system other than LeBron James is the guy, they're going to struggle, Yeah. And not only that, but they were overrated. Mm-hmm. I mean, that's clear at this point because a player who was talked about as much as Isaiah Thomas and Jay Crowder going into that Kyrie trade to Cleveland, they should have been able to at least perform somewhat based on the value that was put on their names,
Yeah.
And it didn't happen. My steal, I have two, and I'm going to go out of left field because I would say the Rodney Hood one, but I'm not going to. I like steal in the context of Portland getting rid of Noah Vonleh,
Okay.
that was a terrible contract.
Mm-hmm.
Terrible contract. And they managed to get it off their books and get under the luxury tax for not much. Like, they didn't have to give a lot away.
Yeah.
And they did it. That to me, I was almost more surprised that they managed to do that than almost anything else that happened on trade deadline day. I just couldn't believe it. That, and then I'm going to go out in left field one more time.
Okay.
Joe Johnson getting traded to Sacramento and then waived, and then Houston not necessarily making the trade, but being smart enough not to make a trade to then just pick him up off waivers.
Okay.
I think is a great move because he's the exact kind of player that is going to thrive coming off the bench for them. Just going to go out there and take 10 threes a game in his minutes, maybe 5 more realistically. But he's going to get probably 8 to 12 points a game.
Okay.
And give them some off-the-bench scoring when Harden and Paul are on the bench. I think that's a great signing. And they got him for nothing.
Yeah. I mean, it's a good pickup by the Houston Rockets. It's not fronting or anything like that. But, I mean, you already kind of have a guy like that that's supposed to give you those extra minutes in Gerald Green. And he's been doing that so far. So, I mean, unless you have a fear or you're guessing, as Morty would with his analytics, that Gerald Green can't keep this up, then I think it's a good move. But I think you already have a guy like that in Gerald Green, so I don't think it's like as big of a move, but it's still a good move because you take someone off the books that like potentially a Celtics could have picked up or someone else could have picked up. So in that sense, I think it is a steal. But in terms of helping the Rockets, I think it does a little bit, but I think they have a guy in Gerald Green that does what he does.
A little bit, but I think the thing too that I was most impressed about is Houston's always a team that's very active in trade deadline talks, and they usually make a big trade. I was proud of them that they didn't feel like they needed to reach and make a trade. They don't need any big players to put in their starting lineup. They just don't need it. Like, they have the best chance of any team in the last 4 years, even considering Cleveland won one of those championships.
Yeah.
To beat the Warriors. So them going out and making a big reach to get a player wasn't necessary. So rather than do that, they just waited and they got just another piece that might help in a playoff game. Yeah. And that's the perfect kind of signing for a team in the position that the Warriors are in.
Okay.
I liked it.
I don't really have any other steals, but let us know down below, guys. What do you think? Do you guys think that this was a steal of the draft? Hood, Joe Johnson, or who else did you say?
Noah Vonleh.
Getting rid of that contract. Let us know down below what you guys think. We'd like to hear your thoughts, and I think we're ready to move on to the next topic.